G'day guys, how's it going? So in this video, we're going to now pivot and go to vectors. I know previously I mentioned that we're going to talk about strings, but I felt it was more important to talk about vectors first before we got to strings. So that's what this video is going to be about, is vectors. So what are vectors? Well, a vector is essentially a collection that can contain items of the same type. So think very similar to arrays, but there's an exception, and that is that a vector can grow and shrink dynamically at runtime based on whatever data you want to store at runtime. So because of that, the data is going to be stored on the heap, right? It's not going to be stored on the stack because we can not necessarily determine at compile time exactly what the size of a vector is going to be. Now, they basically are used for multiple different data structures that exist out in the real world. Some examples of that is like just a normal regular list, or what could be referred to as a linked list. Queues, so a queue serves a first in, first out approach, and they can also be used as actual stacks, similar to how we understand the stack in memory, right? Which is a first in, last out situation, right? Oh, sorry, last in, first out situation. And then lastly, it handles its own memory management. So as we increase the number of items, it'll go through and allocate a little bit more memory as to consider, future additions, right? And as a result of that, a vector being different to an array has what is called a capacity. Okay, so we have a size or a length, which is the same for arrays, but we also have this concept of a capacity. But this is all managed internally by the vector type. So let's have a look at a vector in action for the simple little application program that we have here. So we have main, and we basically can, for example, create a vector from an array, right? Because at the end of the day, it's similar to an array. So this is just a simple program. We'll look at other ways in which we can create vectors in the next video, but this one is just generating a vector from an array, right? So that's that line there. So similar to normal, you would allocate something on the stack to point to something on the heap. But in this case, what's going to happen is it's going to point to the first record that's in that vector, which in this case happens to be 1. And just like arrays, we have indexing. So basically, it's going to point to index 0 in the heap memory, which has a value of 1, okay? It also is going to keep on the stack, along with the pointer to the memory heap, 2 other little properties. One of them is the length, which is how many items are actually currently in the vector. And then there's that thing that I just mentioned, which is capacity, right? So this could be the same or a little bit more than the length. Generally, it's more than the length. And what happens is as we push more items into this vector, that capacity will be updated. So say we reach 6 items and we need to worry about future results, then the vector will go through the process of allocating more memory. Therefore, it will add more capacity, and that will increase. So generally, capacity is always more, or capacity will be more than the length. There are situations where you can make the capacity the same size as the length, and that could be to try and trim down memory. But overall, the capacity is generally going to be higher than the length, okay? Now, you treat the allocation of variables that are trying to get information from the vector similar to an array. So you can use indexing like this. And what will happen is, because this is assigned to a B, it'll go through each item and then finally get down to the one that it's trying to fetch, which is index 2 here. And then it will assign it, right? And now B will point to the value of 3. In fact, in this case, it'll be a number, so it will be copied, right? This is not a reference. This is just grabbing the value from index 2 inside of this stack and then allocating it directly to B, right? Kind of like what we've seen before. So that's pretty much it. That's how vectors work. In the next video, we're going to go through some of the things that you can use on a vector. So I'll see you all then.